Thank you so much for having me today. I will just get myself a glass of water. So I am Rhiannon Gogh, as you know, and you can't sue me either for anything that I say. I haven't got a slide that says that, but you can't. Brilliant. Okay, so I'm here today to talk about advising the families, rather the families of children with special needs. Okay, I'd like to start with a quote. So the quote that I'd like to start with is from a report, and it's probably the only report into families with disabilities, which is the Social Finance Report. And there are two key things, and bearing in mind this report is from 2011, so years and years and years ago. But the report said that the research revealed that there were errors, or there were children and families of children that were excluded from mainstream financial planning, but also that this type of financial planning warranted tailored advice and tailored products. Now, we can't talk about tailored products today, but we can certainly talk about tailored advice. And just out of curiosity, is there anybody in the room that is already advising the families and parents of children with special needs already and specialised in this area? Brilliant, okay. And how many, so I think two, and how many have been to a presentation like this before? Okay, fantastic. So what we'll do, if I was sat in your shoes, I'd probably want to know the outline of SENFA. So tell me, Rhiannon, about special needs financial planning. Give it to me in concepts so that I can apply it to my own clients. Tell me about the unique financial circumstances, but also help me pinpoint foreseeable harm and give me frameworks that I can use with my clients. And then, of course, there'll be a case study at the end as well. So to introduce myself, I'm a chartered and fellowship advisor. I've been in the profession for 26 years, and for 7 years, I've been working with county-led parent carer forums. And parent carer forums are, every county in England will have a parent carer forum that will help with the county to help the parents of those with disabilities. And I've been doing that for the last 7 years. I also work with charities and with special schools as well. And I run about a seminar a week to charities. And there are 3 presentations that I offer. And those 3 presentations, so I offer Wills and Trusts for Special Needs, Parent Carer Financial Toolkit, and Transition to Adulthood. But those presentations are off the back of survey responses, because every time I do a survey or a seminar, I'll send out a survey, and then clients will send me things that they want to know and things that they want to understand, and that gives me a great feel as to what the real appetite is, what the client needs are, and how to help parents and carers. But this building here is where I found out about SENFA. And very much probably like you, when I went to this meeting, it was a networking meeting, and there was a firm of solicitors at this networking meeting. And this was about 9 years ago. And my son is autistic. He's 14 years old. He's profoundly autistic. And I'd gone to this seminar to meet people, not with financial planning in mind at all, but I'd gone to see this firm of solicitors, and I had my business cards, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to network. And I sat at this event, and there was lots of talk around disabled persons' trusts and children not being able to inherit. And I wondered what on earth I'd walked into. I didn't really grasp it at all, certainly not with regard to my own son. And I would imagine I thought something very similar to you sat in that meeting, that it's not really a thing. There's nothing new that you need to do. It's a very small and niche market, that there's no need for any other pathway of advice. And there are no, well, I didn't know what the unique financial challenges are. And the important point there is that I was facing the unique financial challenges, and I just still didn't know what they were. So after listening to that seminar, I drove home and I started putting it all together. And I had a real light bulb moment. I know that phrase is often used, but I really did, because I sat there as a chartered financial advisor at the time, and I thought, my God, all of my traditional financial planning is not going to work for my son with autism at all. Not in the slightest. So I named him in my will, didn't know that was a problem. My pensions weren't in trust, didn't know that was a problem. I hadn't thought about his mental capacity and what would happen to him when I was no longer here. And it hit me that I needed to do something different. And so for the past 7 years, I have been studying and learning and talking to professionals and piecing together an advice pathway and learning about parent-carer traps and pitfalls and all of the foreseeable harm that is undoubtedly foreseeable, but there's just such a lack of awareness in where parents and carers fall down, and I put together an advice pathway. I tried it for my own son. I created the pathway and I got it wrong. I made a huge mistake, had to go back and start it all again. But that was my intro to SENDFA. And I think the first thing I would communicate to you today is that the numbers are truly staggering. If you look at special educational needs, we're not going to look at SEND first, we're going to look at disability. But that figure, that 11% there, so 11%, according to the UK disability prevalence statistics, 11% of children are disabled in 2023. So I've put an asterisk by that figure. One, because you'd probably look at it and think, well, why are you focusing on that side of it? Why don't you focus on that side of it if we've got 45% over there? But the other reason I put an asterisk there is that figure, the other two have stayed relatively static over the last 10 years, but that figure there has doubled over the last 10 years. So that 11% was nearer 5% 10 years ago. And I can't give you the answer as to why that is, but I can obviously recognize something that grows, and that is a growing area. So it's important that if you'd asked me about the need for special needs financial planning 10 years ago, I might have thought, well, for 5%, possibly not. But for something that's doubling in the last 10 years, I think is significant. And the second point to that is that I am, at heart, an estate planner. As a special needs financial planner, I'm an estate planner. And when I'm planning estates, and the estates that I'm planning today and tomorrow and last week, they will be for those clients to land with that 11%. They won't be landing up there, they'll be landing down there. So it's very key, that point there. That's my son, right there, that's us. So yeah, we've talked about disability. Let's look at SEND. So SEND is special educational needs and disability. The figures are even more staggering for SEND. So 17% of all children in England have special educational needs. But the child is not for want of a better phrase, is not my market. The market, if you like, or my client, is the parent. And my client is the grandparent. And my client is the mother's cousin and the uncle and the aunt. And there's a reason I say mother's cousin, which I'll come back to in a second. So when you look at the numbers, it's up to 3 million parents and then potentially up to 6 million grandparents. So if you're advising grandparents, then you're advising potentially somebody that might have a vulnerable grandson or granddaughter. They want to leave money, there's legacy planning there. And that's the clients that I talk to, the grandparents and the parents. There are just over 500,000 children in England with an EHCP funded. Does anyone know what EHCP stands for? Education Healthcare Plan. The key there is that that's funded by the local authority. It's not funded according to means testing on them, or their parents actually, but it will be funded on them according to their means tested, their funded package when they get to 18. So that's 500,000 people in England, or children in England, that when they get to 18, they have something that is means tested. So we're thinking about creating means for that child in the form of a junior ISA. It will impact their care, potentially. Another planning point. And when we look at what SEND means, it's important to know it's a learning difficulty or disability. But what does it actually tell us? Well, what it actually tells us to, in light of the time, to simplify things, it is predominantly social communication and behavioural issues. So these are people that can't, like my son can't talk, he's pre-verbal, he doesn't understand words anyway, but there's struggles with communication. And so it gives us a meaningful way of thinking, right, well, if we've got somebody that's struggling with communication, they're potentially vulnerable now, when we're estate planning for them, when do we identify that client? And how do we then plan for them in the future? And I would identify the client, usually if I'm in a non-SEND environment, by just a simple question. And I would simply say to grandparents, if I'm meeting them, if it's a referral and it's somebody that I know is not within the special needs world, I would say, is there anyone in your family that you know would be vulnerable in control of their own money? Very simple. And the amount of times I ask that and the answer comes back, yes, it's absolutely staggering. So the second point is that the child is central to the recommendation. Why do I say that? Because so often in financial planning, it feels like the child is on the periphery. So, and I can give you a perfect example. When I went to write my will, nobody really asked me. The solicitor didn't ask me about my children. They expected me to give them information, but they didn't ask me if any of my children had disabilities, if any of them would be vulnerable in receipt of their own money. But my hint or tip, if you like, would be to bring the child back into the centre of that recommendation. And the reason I say that is because, and in fact, I've put, why are you focusing on the child? Because somebody said to me, and it stuck with me a couple of years ago, why are you focusing on the child? Well, because it impacts parents and carers' outcomes. Everything within our family that I do, every piece of financial planning is impacted by my son. There's no doubt about it. My pension is impacted by him because he'll likely retire with us. So I need to make sure that there's adequate retirement planning for him as well, because he'll probably be in our house. And then when I pass it on to him, I need to make sure that it's protected in trust because he won't have mental capacity. So every single aspect of my planning starts with that. And also because it highlights foreseeable harm. Just by identifying that somebody in the family has SEND or vulnerabilities, it's giving me a steer and stopping me from avoiding blind spots. And there are some really familiar concepts. Is anybody in the room SOLAR? Do we have lots of SOLAR advisors here? Okay, so with SOLAR concepts that will be familiar to you, so vulnerable clients and decision making and means tested benefits and team approach. So having the deputies and the attorneys and the team care approach, those will be familiar to you. But I think the key concepts, if you wanted to really get to the bottom of what special needs financial planning means, you have to know those 5 concepts. And it took me 7 years to learn those 5 concepts because I knew I was doing something different, but I didn't really know, I couldn't really articulate what those unique financial challenges are. And those are the unique financial challenges. That, number one, the biggest one of all, that money is obviously, we know this, it's passed down the generations. It's not passed up the generations, it's passed down the generations. But everything that I leave, I want to leave to my son. And we pay attention, we pay great attention when we have an elderly relative that goes into a care home. We wouldn't dream of leaving them our estate. So why on earth would we not do the same or not go through the same planning with a young person? So that money passed down is incredibly important. Half of everything I leave, it will land with my son. So I have to think life cycle of the product. And anyone that comes to talk to me about my finances would have to think that when this lady is no longer here, it's going to land with Tristan. And what do? Access, risk, means tested benefits. So money passed down is important. The second is outliving the carer. This is huge. Imagine caring for somebody and knowing that the person you care for is going to outlive you. It presents you with a whole load of planning opportunity, actually, just from a perspective of funding for care, because I can use life insurance really effectively as a special needs financial planner, because I need a sum that kicks in when my parents or when this person is no longer here. Well, life insurance works very well, obviously, for that. But you have, for example, life expectancy, that is, my son with autism, he might live into his 70s. So it's unlikely that I'll be here. In the 80s, average life expectancy for someone with Down syndrome was 25. Can you believe it? And it's in their 60s now. So we have a new generation of people that were planning for care. Thirdly, we're funding for care from 18 onwards. That's long-term care fund planning. And then there's the family impact. And there's 2 things you need to know about family impact for families of children with disabilities. And the first thing is, it is thought to be 3 times as much money-wise to bring up a disabled child as it is to bring up a non-disabled child. But secondly, it's really hard to work full-time and care for a disabled child. If there's 2 of you, you tend to find, I mean, I've got clients where both the doctors and one of the doctors has just left the profession just to provide care. It's really very difficult, so it impacts earnings as well. And then we've got growing media attention. So we not only have a growing need, we have growing media attention. So you might have seen child trust funds in the media. There's a lot going on about child trust funds. It's in Parliament. We've got lots of people talking about them that are media celebrities about child trust funds, and we'll look at that in a second. But that is why I focus on the child. That's why it's important. And if you can understand those 5 concepts, then you are streets ahead. In the report that I mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation, they pointed out the concept of early intervention and prevention in services is well established. And it is because schools and the education system have done the work for us. Translating that into financial planning is crucial, I can assure you. The challenges are unique. So if I was in your shoes, I'd be thinking, right, prove to me that this isn't needed or that traditional financial planning does not work. And that would be my proof that traditional financial planning potentially causes issues. Child trust funds. So you may or you may not know that when a child reaches 18, if they don't have mental capacity, they cannot access a child trust fund. The parents would have to go to the Court of Protection to get a deputyship order. So as much or as many as 126,000 children might not have the ability just to access their child trust fund. And from experience, isn't it sad to see those quotes? Because those are quotes that parents will, and charities will say, come and talk to us about the child trust fund scandal. Or we've been locked out of child trust funds. And we've written to our MP because we feel misled. And it's, to my mind, that is the greatest social experiment in special needs financial planning. And actually, I thought when this hit, I thought, my God, everyone's going to be doing special needs financial planning. Because it just seems to me so blindingly obvious that there might be a different pathway needed for a child that cannot access an account. Not to mention all of those that potentially are on the fence with their mental capacity. They might not be able to access accounts too. They would need an attorney. And then the third issue is, even if they can access their account, it will impact their means-tested care, as we've discussed previously. And that's huge. So unique estate planning. So advice for grandparents. So that case at the top was a grandparent of a person 21 years old, leaving them 170,000. And the person that they left it to was in receipt of means-tested care, did not have capacity to be able to handle an inheritance, but the parents actually went to court to try and divert the inheritance, to try and stop that from landing with the child. And you can't clearly stop an inheritance from landing with a child once it's happened. If the child is in receipt of means-tested care, that would be deprivation of assets. So the parents went to court, they tried to get it put into a disabled person's trust, and it didn't work. There are unique estate planning challenges. Another case, mother's cousin. That's why she mentioned mother's cousin, because 400 to 600,000 was left from a mother's cousin to a young person. Again, this one was in residential care, and the parents went to court to try and get that diverted into a disabled person's trust, and it was refused by the court. And how can we avoid this? So how can we take a step back? Prevention is better than cure. We think foreseeable harm. So the subject of the conference today is the value that you add as financial advisors. And this is the most valuable thing I can give to you. My value to you is that, because having talked to thousands of parents, thousands and thousands of parents and advisors, when they find out I do what I do, and they call me and they say, I've got this case that I'm working on, can you help me? And this has happened. If it's ever something bad that's happened, it's always one of those. Always, always, always. If it's something really bad, then it's a combination of those. So the ARC armed parent carer framework, so armed parent care is the way that I communicate it to parents, but the ARC framework is there to help with a lack of awareness, and it's there to help you in your planning by just taking a pause before you make any recommendation, potentially certainly to a young person with SEND, but when you're talking to grandparents or parents of children with SEND, every decision that they make financially, we have to filter it on, will my young person be able to access this? Potentially when they reach 18, from a mental capacity perspective, will they be at risk with it in their hands? And will it impact their means-tested care plan? And if you can ask that before you put a recommendation in place, or if you're reviewing a recommendation, if you can bring that into the review process, you will eliminate 99.9% of the foreseeable harm. It's a great flagging protocol, but it's also something that's so, if you're talking to grandparents as well, it's so useful to have a framework to explain why you need to see a grandparent. I'm worried that, and I would say, I'm worried that my son might not be able to access the money you've left to him. I'm worried that he'll be vulnerable in receipt of it, and I'm worried that it'll impact his means-tested care. In which case, let's talk about trust. Let's talk about disabled persons trust, discretionary trust. Let's get deputyship in place when he's 16, 17. Let's just forewarned and forearmed. Let's prevent any future problems. And I think onward communication to wider family, it's very helpful to have a framework to use. Okay, finally, a case study. Okay, so there are two things that I would think as things to remember on top of the ARC framework, and I will bring in a summary in a second, but life cycle of the product and whole family solution. And I think special needs financial planning gives you so many opportunities as an advisor. Compelling reasons to talk to family members, very compelling reasons to talk to grandparents, very compelling reasons to talk to and engage with solicitors and to have a really close relationship with a solicitor. You'll need to talk to trustees, you'll need to talk to guardians, you'll need to make sure everybody checks the plan and works from the same plan. You'll need to return to the solicitor. You'll become the solicitor's favourite person. But the whole family solution, I think, points this out very well. So this is Dad. This is the actual family, by the way, and they've given me their permission to use these pictures. But this is Dad, and what he's doing there is he is refurbishing an ambulance because he takes matters into his own hands, and his son couldn't get any after-school provisions, so he thought, I'll buy an ambulance and I'll refurbish it and we'll build a sensory bus. So that's what he's actually doing in that picture. There's Mum, and then this is the young man here. He has autism. I first met him when he was 15, and Mum and Dad came to a seminar with Somerset Parent Carer Forum, and it was wills and trusts. So, of course, I go to see them in their house, and we talk about wills. So the first thing we talk about wills. So we start with estate planning, key. And we look at disabled persons trust and discretionary trust, and we decide which one is a good way forward. We liaise with a solicitor. I go to see the solicitor with them. We have a nice meeting. We get that in place. We look at investing because they want to invest for the young man's future. So we talk about the different options with housing. And they say, right, well, we want a bungalow in the village. And that's great, so we'll start investing for that. And then only last year, end of last year, we bought the bungalow using the proceeds of the investment, and then we went back to the solicitor again, which is key because we thought, well, do we buy the house in trust? Do we buy it in the brother's name, the parent's name? How do we purchase this trust, and what's the best way forward? So we went back to the solicitor. We arranged their pensions in trust, and we also got deputyship for that young man there. Grandfather. So that's the grandfather with their son, the grandson when he was 4 years old. He wanted to make a trust in the will for his grandson. So I went to see the grandfather, went back to the solicitor, new best friend, and then put in place a trust within the will for the son, the grandson, with the grandfather. So job done for him. And that's the most important part, I think, of this whole story. That's the brother. And the brother is at university, and he wants to be his brother's trustee, and he wants to be his brother's guardian. So we built in a professional trustee into the will, went back to the solicitor, built in a professional trustee within the will so that he has that trustee help because he is in university and he's very happy to be the trustee for his brother, but he wouldn't know, he doesn't have much financial know-how, so he wouldn't really understand that. We also, of course, he would be an outright beneficiary, but we put in place life insurance so that when mum and dad die and when we're waiting for the will with the trust in it and the estate to be settled, then the brother has access to funds outside the estate protected in trust, but then he can use to care for his brother. Okay, so I hope that's a whistle-stop tour of Senfa, and I'm conscious I'm standing between you and lunch, so I will just say a few things and then I will leave you. Thank you so much for your attention. Let's get back. Oh, hang on. I won't say a few more things. I'll finish by just saying thank you for your attention. It is a growing need, and I think there's an opportunity, a huge opportunity for anybody that wants to be involved in this type of planning with the wider family, with professional connections. In fact, you could probably just build a business as I have from the very start on this loan. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you.